From the deep southeast corner of Arizona to the bright city lights of Las Vegas, this is Mackenzie Kimbrough, a sixth-generation cattle rancher with deep roots in rodeo too. Embracing our heritage and keeping legacies alive, stay tuned as we showcase shades of our southwestern lifestyle coming together during the NFR. Ranching, rodeo, fashion, and cowboy culture. This is Roots Run Deep, Vegas edition. Hey friends, welcome into Roots Run Deep, Vegas edition. I'm your host, Mackenzie Kimbrough, and on today's show, we have a packed lineup of really interesting folks that I'm so excited to share with y'all. We're starting things off with Red River Arenas and some of the family behind that brand. Tricia and Bailey, thank y'all so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
We got to meet a couple years ago at the Roper Cowboy Marketplace, which is again where we are this year. You're a vendor here. You're sharing, all of the information about your amazing arenas and all the products that you offer. And we've become friends over the last few years, and we're the same kind of people. And I feel like it's special to be able to share y'all's roots, especially being a family business here on the show today. So that's where we usually kick things off. I'll start with you, Tricia. Go ahead and tell us about your roots and where your family comes from.
So I actually have been part of this company since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
My dad started the company, and I just traveled the country with him selling panels. In 1993, we started Red River Arenas, where we packaged our panels with a roping chute. And I married my wonderful husband, had two great children, and we kind of morphed into a wholesale to the public. So we have free nationwide delivery to everybody. It's really fun now because my children are involved. Bailey is here working, and my son is working another booth, and then my husband and I are working yet another booth. So we're kind of spread out, but I think this is a dream that I have had for a long time. I've waited years to be able to work with my children and have this kind of environment, and I think this is just kind of my Christmas present this year.
Oh, I love that. That's a great way to think about it. And of course, starting the business, as you said, you've been in it your whole life, and then things have developed through the years. I'd love to know, there's always been a need for, heavy duty equipment and things that are usable and practical and well built, and the rodeo industry, and then also we use it on ranches and everywhere else. I'd love to know the thought process behind creating the lines that you have with Red River.
I do not sell anything that I personally do not try myself. Our groomers, we go out to our arena and we literally try to tear them up. We have some great friends that can tear up anything, and we give them the product. We always want to make sure it's horse safe. We always want to make sure that things flow. We are ropers. I am a cutter. We have barrel racer, goat tire, and we do everything in our arenas. And so we absolutely know, hey, this does not work. Let's do this better. Or we're like, okay, some people only have 5 head of cattle and that's all they want to rope. So let's have this lighter weight panel. And then some people are like, we want a full rodeo arena. And so we've just made the bull tough arena. And then we've got everything in between. But we just want to make sure there's something for everybody, that if somebody wants to rope in their own backyard, they can rope in their own home, or they can have a full competition rodeo. We've sold several rodeo arenas across the nation, and it's just been great.
And it's really cool to see the growth that y'all have had over the last couple of years, especially, and seeing that Red River Arenas logo in arenas all over the country. And then, like you said, in all different scales, whether it's a full-blown rodeo arena or in somebody's backyard for their practice pen or anything in between. It's cool that you're being such a supportive part of the industry, and I know that's big on your heart, is to keep those Western roots and traditions alive and to serve your customers the best that you can. Bailey, I'd love to talk to you about being in a family business. Of course, Tricia mentioned that you're stationed here, your brother's stationed at one of the other locations, your parents are at another location, so y'all are spread out everywhere. But you grew up with this business, you know it like the back of your hand. Talk about the experience that you've had growing up with it and now working in it.
Yeah, it's really cool being born into a family business. It's just it's a way of life, and I don't think you recognize like who you are and how big you can be until you get a little older. So, one of my favorite parts of it is just getting to see my family every day and work alongside my brother is really cool. And not until recently I got to really have so much gratitude for how special it is to be working in the same industry as your family. So, yeah, it's been awesome to grow up in it, but being an adult in it and getting to think of ways to expand and grow and continue to impact the industry and get to know the industry better, it's super special. I love it.
Definitely. And was this something that you always wanted to do, or was there another career path that was considered somewhere along the way?
Yeah, I do a lot of things. And so it's great to have the flexibility and just the loyalty of family business. So I mostly do marketing for Red River Arenas, and I do some other things. I went to college for computer science, so I get to serve them in that way. So I've kind of always been a jack of all trades, and I still get to use that. So
That's awesome. And you know, as someone who also comes, of course, from a family business with deep roots in ranching and all of that, the mother-daughter dynamic is something that is so special, but also so tricky sometimes. But,
Yeah.
but really special, and it's something you learn from her. I'm sure at this point, and for years, you're going to be learning with her, alongside her, and from her as well. Talk a little bit about how special it is that you can work with your mom specifically. I know it's a family business and we love them all, but that's a different
Yes,
dynamic.
it is. We find ourselves having like mom mode and boss mode because you have to separate, but there's really no separation. It's so integrated. But everything I know, I've learned from my mom. Like truly everything, and I'll probably start crying. But it's kind of a weird dynamic shift now that I'm older and like I'm teaching her some things. But honestly, it's fun. We have our Monday morning chats where we catch each other up over the weekend, and it's like you wouldn't get to do this in a normal job, and so it's one of the most special things. And just thinking about getting to pass on her knowledge to when I have kids one day just lights up my heart, and it's just really, I'm so thankful. So.
Well, it's a beautiful answer and it's a beautiful sentiment. And I empathize with that because, you know, it's something that's really relatable, I think, for not only a lot of moms and daughters out there, but especially those that get the opportunity to work together. I'm going to flip the question your way and have you kind of talk about how proud you are of her and that she's chosen to be a part of the family business, you know, growing up in it and moving forward with it, and kind of what you're learning from her, too.
Oh gosh. So we've had learning curves along the way because, you know, I am the mom and sometimes I have to back up from mom role and be a coworker role. And she is very intelligent. And, you know, this new age of social media, I hate to say it's kind of somewhat leaving me behind. And she knows the algorithm. She knows when to post, how to post, what to post. And so I just kind of am guiding her of, hey, let's have this sale. And she goes, I'm on it. You know, the other thing is she is really my sales and marketing person, but I can't leave here without talking about my son just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because he graduated high school early just so that he could be here at Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So that was a goal of his, is to graduate high school so he could have his own booth out here. And he did it. I got cheated out of his senior year, but I also get to have him here. So that's okay. He is going to go into more of our manufacturing. He is very skilled at knowing how machines work, what is supposed to happen. And he is really leading us into more automation. So while she and I are on the front side of, you know, we are the face of Red River Arenas, he and his dad are on the back side of, let's make it cool. Let's make it safe. Let's make it fun. Let's make it cool. Let's do cool things. So it's really, it's neat that sometimes on Thanksgiving Day, we can sit around and talk about what we want to do next year. You know, in fact, our marketing for next year is going back to our roots.
Amazing.
So it was really great to be invited here to talk about our roots because that is what we want to do is, you know, she and I have she's about to be her birthday, 23 years of working together.
Wow.
She's been at work with me since she was 3 days old. So when she says she knows the business, she really does.
And I think Austin would say the same thing about working with our dad.
Yeah.
They poured so much into us and invested so much time into us of making us smart and teaching us how to work. Like, you really do have to learn how to work in today's age. And so I think he would say the same thing, that he would not be the man he is without learning from our dad. And I can't imagine like Thanksgiving and family dinners if we all worked at different places. And
Yeah.
so it's so good to get to serve them in our adulthood when they poured so much into us in our childhood. So
Sure. No, that's amazing. And it's so beautiful. And I think we see it a lot in the Western industry that, families are tight knit. We grow up together. We're based on foundations of faith and, love for God and country and all of those things. But the real root of it all is those family ties. And being able to see how you guys have not only built a business, but built a family at the same time that's still so connected, and that y'all haven't run away from each other yet, honestly.
well,
Well,
let's
there's
tell some
times.
stories.
Let's don't.
Well, we can, part 2 coming soon. Just us, part 2. But no, it's really beautiful to see that, and to, I think that's a huge part of having a brand that is respected too, because not only is it somebody that people can trust because y'all are putting effort into making high quality material, but it's also a family that runs it, and it's trustworthy people that, are working hard. And it's like, the American dream, right? You're working with your family, you're making a good product, you're helping people, you're serving people, and it all ties back together. And it's a really great story. I'm so glad to have had you guys here with us today. We're going to just kind of transition. I would love to give you an opportunity to kind of share a little bit more about the product specifically. Give it, we're going to call this an infomercial for the moment, but give us, a little bit more of the spiel. Talk a little bit about the different kinds of products. I know we mentioned them briefly in the beginning, but what are some of the highlights that you'd like to share with people so that they can kind of get a better idea of what you have to offer?
So our number one is, of course, we're Red River Arenas. So we sell arenas. We sell roping arenas, riding arenas, round pens, bucking arenas. We have just now added cattle working equipment. We are selling squeeze chutes now, tubs and alleys. We pretty much, if you want an arena in your backyard, whether it's riding, roping, round pen, if you want a saddle rack, we have saddle racks. If you need to groom your arena, you can groom your arena. One of the fun things that we sell is goat arenas and the goat roping arenas. That is a surefire way to get a family together. Yes. And you don't have to own a horse. If you want to enjoy roping, goat roping is it's a lot of fun. And I'm sure Bailey has some stuff that she could add.
Yeah, that covered a lot of it, but there's, all the products of the in-between. We also have those, like feeders, our big line of ours, hog traps for our people in the woodland areas. What am I forgetting? Let's see.
It's a wide range of things that you guys
Everything
have
you need.
available. How can people, get in touch with y'all if they're not going to be able to come see you here at the finals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we also have sales going online right now. Yeah. So our website is super easy to navigate, and they can find all the information that they need there. But also, we're just regular people that you can call on the phone. So we don't have any automated bots that answer. It's just myself and our salesman, Jackie May, who is absolutely amazing. And if you've worked with him, you know that. Jackie is a team roper, and he just gets them. And people love talking to Jackie May, and we're super thankful for him. So yeah, you can call him or or shop online
At redriverarenas.com.
Perfect. And then social media handles? We have some social media
Follow
presence,
us
I'm
on
sure.
social media. Yeah, we have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the full works. It's all just Red River Arenas. TikTok and YouTube are more fun behind the scenes if you want to follow along there. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And you guys are doing a great job of it. I'm really happy to have had you on the show today. Cannot recommend this family business enough. Red River Arenas, come check them out. They're everywhere here at the National Finals Rodeo. They're pretty much at every major shopping venue that there is. Be sure to follow along on socials, check out their website. And y'all, thank you so much for being here. I sure appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Hey friends, if you're looking to up your plain old vanilla ice cream game, then this sauce is gonna do it for you. It has strawberries and amaretto, a classic combination. It's a quick cook on the stove. Let me show you how we make it. In a saucepan, I have half a stick of melted butter, and to that, I'll add half a cup of brown sugar, along with half a cup of white sugar, and the best part, half a cup of amaretto liqueur. We'll stir that together just to keep the sugar from burning. And we'll add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract to go along with 1 whole box of chopped strawberries. Go ahead and stir that to combine and kind of coat the strawberries. We're going to cover this and cook until the strawberries are soft. This scrumptious sauce really does the job, hits the spot, and it takes your ice cream up to the next level. So don't be shy, add on a few spoonfuls. If you want to recreate this recipe at home, it's in my cookbook, Roots Run Deep, Our Ranching Tradition. Hey friends, welcome back to Roots Run Deep Vegas edition. I'm your host, Mackenzie Kimbrough, and I have a really special guest with us here today. I am kind of personally geeking out because at one point in my life I wanted to attend culinary school, and this is a bona fide chef, businessman. He's a big deal, and we've got a lot to talk about today. Marc Marrone, thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm honored that you're taking the time to chat with us. Of course, the show is called Roots Run Deep, so that's where we generally start things off. Tell me a little bit about your roots and where you come from.
So I originally born and raised in New York City. Come from an Italian-American household. My grandparents were born in Italy. My mom's side of the family was born in Ireland, so real family-oriented. Grew up in the city. Started working in restaurants when I was 15. A little bit of a trouble when I was in high school, and my dad made me get a job. So that was his whole solution was, I'm going to make you work at this restaurant.
Yeah.
So I get a job. First day I show up, and I'm washing dishes, peeling potatoes, doing whatever they need me to do. And I come home. My dad's like, "Did you learn anything?" I was like, "Yeah, I think it's the best thing I've ever done in my life." And he goes, "It's not what I was going for." And I loved it. And I fell in love with it right then and there.
Yeah.
And, realized that's what I want to do for a living. So I started cooking my whole life. And, that's brought me to here.
I think the journey to becoming a chef is so interesting because it seems like everybody gets into it differently. That's a heck of a start, and obviously not necessarily what your dad intended, but I would say he's probably really proud of how it's worked out since. I'd love you to talk a little bit about your chef training and how that all came to be, and then we'll get into the businesses too.
Yeah, so I was, fortunate again. Like I said, I started working in restaurants when I was 15, doing everything from dishwashing, started cooking. One day, one of the line cooks called out, and the chef was looking at me and goes, "You ready to learn how to cook?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" I was like, I don't know, 16 at the time. So I popped on there and started cooking. And that then and there is where it kind of took off, where I realized that I truly love everything about this business. And I love cooking. And what really I learned is rooted in, I like taking care of people, like hospitable, right? Like my grandparents always, like, whether it was one friend, 10 friends, 5 people, didn't matter. If I had friends with me, they came over for dinner. She always took care of everybody. And so I think I realized that I could make a living doing this. So kind of fell in love with it after that. And then bounced around a bunch of restaurants in New York. And then, finally landed this opportunity where I was 23, and this restaurant called Tao in New York City was the highest grossing restaurant in Manhattan at the time, was top of the list of everything. And I had met the chef through a family friend and kind of interviewed, and he was looking for a chef, and I interviewed for him, not even thinking I'd get the job. And next thing I knew, I'm standing there, 23 years old as a chef of this restaurant that's doing massive numbers, really high profile. And then was super honored to be there. And then we went on a pretty big rapid expansion. Opened Tao Las Vegas, Lava Las Vegas. I moved out here, became the corporate chef, and ended up on a bunch of restaurants with them, and kind of brought me to here. That's how I ended up in Vegas, at least.
That's amazing. And really learning all sides of the business pretty much by trial by error. Like you
100%.
were 100% thrown into the fire, as they say, and learned as you went. And I think that's some of the most valuable experience is real life work experience, because you don't have a choice but to make it happen.
Yeah, and I've realized that, it also creates opportunity for other people, right? I think that, there's so many people out there that are willing to do the work. They're willing to try. They've got the natural talent, and they just don't get the right opportunity for a list of reasons, whether it's, this school, or you didn't go here, or you didn't work for this guy. It's instilled in me to not think that way. So I've been unique, have the opportunity to meet some really great, talented young guys at the early on in my career that, may have gotten overlooked, but I saw a lot in them and was able to create opportunity to people that may not normally get it. So I kind of have that ethos and everything that we do, and it carries over kind of into the horse training, which we'll talk about soon, I guess.
Yes.
That was another trial by fire. But yeah, I think it's creates really cool opportunity to think on your feet, makes you adaptable, and I think restaurants do that to you, right? Because every day is different.
Yeah.
Like one day you think things are going to go well, and something goes sideways. You just kind of learn how to figure it out. So I think it kind of applies to life in general.
Definitely. We have a lot to talk about. I mentioned that. I've got like 4 pages worth of notes here. But we are going to talk about a really special horse therapy program that he has, and then also a few other things that you have going on. But before we drive away from the chef thing for just a second, this is probably more of a personal question, but I think it'll be a really interesting thing for people to know. When it comes to creating like an original concept for a restaurant or, a new spot that is in a really competitive market like Las Vegas, what does that process look like? Because you come up with a concept for a new spot, but then there's so many things that go into actually making it happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's something where I've been, again, you don't realize when you're in it learning something that it's going to benefit you in the long term and what you're really accomplishing. And, with Tao, I was really fortunate to be part of development and concepting and here in Vegas, Los Angeles, Singapore, New York City, Chicago. And, subconsciously that whole process of first identifying what a market needs.
Yep.
And then lining it up with what you can execute or something you could figure out, right? Like if, your threshold is here where I'm competent doing this, I'm just going to do some research and learn this piece of it. And I think that would fit really well here. And I think as you kind of progress, you build a skill set and an arsenal, and then you try to pull from each thing and make something unique, but that's also approachable and understanding for the market that you're in. That's the hard part, right? Is like, you think you think they know what they want, but then either it's exactly the same as something else, or you run the risk of calling it something. And if it's not exactly that, depending on what cities you're in, like I'll use Nashville, for example. You make Nashville hot chicken in Nashville.
Yeah.
If you don't nail it.
Yeah.
And even if you do, you're still going to get, looked upon as like, that's not how my family made it. Or that's not how, my favorite place, Prince's or Hattie B's, wherever you go. That's not how they do it. And so you got to tote that fine line of being creative and progressing cuisine without offending people, for lack of a better word.
Right. And it's so interesting that people get so particular about stuff like that. Man, you can offend somebody so fast. And that's just coming from my lifetime of watching the Food Network and seeing, all those competition shows. Food is so discernible to each individual person. And I can't imagine what goes into actually creating these uber successful, restaurants that are all over the country and all over the world. Is that something, of course, when you look at those markets, you're looking at going in and being the best at what you do or bringing in something that somebody else hasn't done yet. But in a place like Las Vegas or Nashville or a place that, there are a lot of tourists and there's a lot of people to feed, is the competition for restaurants in general a factor, or is there just that much opportunity to go ahead and make something special?
That's actually a great question, because it's funny. You have the opportunity in big cities like this, and because you have a giant captive audience, but at the same time, you've got to differentiate yourself in a lot of noise.
Sure.
That doesn't create animosity with the guests, doesn't upset people. At the same time, a lot of times too, you got to think about cities like even LA, for example. You have a lot of tourists in LA, but you got such a strong community there that's rooted in there that supports culinary. So if you link yourself to what the community wants, you'll be okay. Cities like Vegas and Nashville is a good example because of the massive amount of tourism that comes from all over the country. You've got a diverse palette, for lack of a better word. Like you've got people that, or just lack of understanding or their interpretation of food. And when you go from especially like New York City to the Midwest to the South to California, and you talk about Italian food as an example, that's one that is discernibly different for everybody. And, things that people cook at home a lot end up being the hardest restaurants to execute because it doesn't matter if it's right or if it's correct or follows tradition. If my mom made it this way, that's what I like.
That's it.
And so when I go to a restaurant and it's called that, I go, you're almost set up for failure, right? So a big part of what I learned and try to contribute, and I've had a passion for, is education.
Yes.
So I've learned if you manage people's expectations, and that kind of goes for everything outside of restaurants, you're less susceptible for criticism and people to be upset. As long as they know what they're getting, and you have intent as to why you did it this way, I found success in that. They may not like it, but they won't get upset about it, right? So a big part of it is, not budging on what you believe is right. And if you know that, this is how I want to make this dish, this is why I want to make it this way, our job is really how to convey that to the guest, right? It's not necessarily manipulating it to make them like it. It's just showing the intent behind it. And I've learned that a lot of people, again, a lot of criticism comes from misalignment and expectation, right?
Sure.
I expected you to like this and you expected me to make it this way. And I didn't communicate that well to you. And now we're in a situation where you got something you don't like.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, a lot of people think that restaurants don't care. The ones that are successful and the ones that I can speak to is that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
May get annoyed that I got to redo it, but at the end of the day, it's because I want to make sure that you have a great experience. And I think great chefs across the country get a stigma of people saying, oh, they only cook for themselves. Now there are chefs like that, right? But majority of us that have done well and are fortunate to have guests that come back is how to identify a guest and what they want, and also how to reach them, right? Because there's also success in being the place where people learn something, right? Because everyone likes to be at a dinner party where they could say something they learned somewhere.
Yeah.
And I found excitement in that too, whether it's something as simple as explaining why we use a certain flour or why we cook it this way versus another way. Then people go, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. And I find that that's how you kind of penetrate different markets and successfully. And yeah, listen, a lot of it's trial and error. Sometimes you think something's going to work and it just blows up in your face.
Sure. Well, yeah. Isn't that just life?
Oh, yeah,
My
exactly.
gosh.
Like I said, there's a lot of parallels to restaurants as a whole and life, right? Like how to
Yeah.
be successful in just about anything.
Sure. And it's so interesting. Of course, you've had a really successful career, and it's easy to see that a lot of your passions are educating, creating something of quality, and then also creating opportunity. And you saw a space in the market where you needed to do some educating for yourself, and then you're also working with a business partner to do some educating for chefs. And
Yep.
and we're going to start talking a little bit now about the business of beef specifically.
Yeah.
I know that's a big passion project for you guys. Tell me a little bit about the heart behind how you got started looking into ranching and the pasture to plate process, and what you have working with Cindy as well.
Yeah. So, as I've kind of progressed in my career, I had a restaurant in Salt Lake City that I got this determination, spending a lot of time in the farmers markets, and it was the end of the summer, and I'm seeing all these tomato farmers and all these ranchers and farmers that have the produce left over from the summer,
Yeah.
and they're in this desperate scramble to sell it. And now you're going into fall. There's tomatoes. Restaurants are like, oh, they're out of season, and these poor guys are sitting there literally with everything they've invested in all summer,
Yeah.
and no one's buying it. And I'm talking to them, going, what happened? Because of things outside their control, government, drought, they cut the water, so they had to harvest early. Then it sat, and I realized, like, you could see the direness on their face, and realizing that all these things we take for granted in the grocery store, we take for granted in restaurants. I ordered, it shows up. The heart that goes behind that, and then when it doesn't go well, that's their only income, right? And that you put your whole family, your whole life into this project, or your career, your passion of raising and growing animals, growing produce, whatever it is. And and I was talking to them. I said, "What do you?" He goes, "I'll sell it to you for." Literally, this guy was like, "I'll give you $5 a case of these tomatoes." And my, the opportunistic side of me went, "Oh, that's a great deal. I'm gonna wait a second." I was like, "Does that even help you?" He goes, "Helps me not have to bring them back." And I was like, "All right, there's got to be happy medium here. Like, what do you need? Like, what do you need for them, right? Like, what's going to make this like worth your time?"
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it's still going to benefit me versus buying them at market value, right?
Sure.
So, he was like, well, I mean, he goes, really, my drop dead price was like $10 a case. I was like, so you break even at that? He goes, yeah. I was like, so how about we land at 20? And the guy almost fell over. And I was like, that would cost me $40, $38 on a normal day.
Yeah.
And I cost all my stuff out at that price point anyway. So I'm still saving a little bit of money and, trying to help them out. And that really is kind of where it triggered me to go, we have a real, almost, I call it an obligation now as restaurateurs, as chefs, as anybody leading food. That also goes for people on social media that cook at home, whatever it is. When you've got a voice in an audience and you're talking about food, we have an obligation now to really explain where it comes from.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean, and probably upset people by saying this, but like, it doesn't mean that because a vendor has it and I'm going to buy it from them, that I'm contributing positively to agriculture, right?
Sure.
Because I think if we learned anything, there's necessities and then there's business, and a lot of times the producers get overlooked.
Yeah.
Almost all the time,
Yeah.
right? And the more we can help and demand that this is where we want to buy from, this is who we want to support, we can really affect a real change. And so that kind of triggered the whole thing for me, where I was like, how could I be better about what we source? So I made a point. We tried to source everything from the state of Utah, at least, right? So if we're in the state operating, we want to make sure that, the things that are highlighted on our menu coming from the people that live in the state and are part of what make it thrive.
Sure.
So that's how it started. And then I got into an opportunity where we invested in a USDA plant, and I saw the other side of the business. So we were selling meat. We owned restaurants and we were selling meat, which again, the running joke is like these distributors, the last thing they ever want in a million years is the producer, literally the rancher, and the end user being in the same room. Because then you
Absolutely.
realize that, wow, there's a lot of fluff in between.
Yep.
And a lot of it's required, right? Like I said, I mean, someone's got to get the beef from, wherever it is, whether it's Arizona, Montana, Nebraska, and get it to New York City and get it to Florida. And I appreciate that.
Sure.
But at the same time, until someone says something and does something about it and really brings to light where that money really needs to go, it's not anyone else's fault, but our own for not communicating that, right? And I think that I really wanted to find a way to fix that. So I'm going to touch on it for a second. The Veteran Equine Therapy Program.
Yes.
In getting that off the ground, one of our original sponsors and big proponents of our program to get us jump started introduced us to Cindy, because I was trying to figure out how to navigate, grants and things like that to be able to grow our Wild Mustang program.
Sure.
And in talking to her, we just naturally started talking about beef and steaks and production and agriculture and, my affinity for, ranching and farming and growing stuff. Like I grew up, again, go back to New York City. I grew up where, an Italian neighborhood where your driveway was full of like 5-gallon buckets of like tomatoes and eggplants. And it's a New York City way of trying to grow your own stuff, right? It's in a driveway in a 5-gallon bucket, but it's the same concept, right? So, our family's always rooted in that. So I was like, it'd be really fascinating to make a living off of this. And the one response that I'm sure you live and breathe every day is going, "Oh, there's no money in that. You're crazy to get into it."
Sure.
And I was like, but the crazy side of me sees the restaurant. Well, I'm paying for beef.
Yeah.
You're telling me what you need to raise beef. There's plenty of margin there for both of us to make money if we find a way to do this successfully. So Cindy and I started talking, and she is one of the most intelligent, aggressive, smart people I've ever met. And her passion behind what she does also ties into conservation. So
Yeah.
I was like, man, two of the things I really want to try to at least contribute to making a better place is offering a better access to beef and food for people.
Yeah.
And land conservation. And she does both. So we aligned in the fact where it was like, all right, you guys are in the restaurant space. You know what people want. I'm really good at raising beef. Let's partner up here and let's come up with a thing where we can get our beef to market. And also at the same time, it gives us the ability to build more ranches and conserve more land and expand the program, right? Because that's where our passions all kind of aligned. So that's how that started. And now, Cindy, Todd, and I got our ranches down in Arizona, a processing plant in South Dakota, and we control the whole process from start to finish. So it's from raising to caring for the animals to the slaughter to the portioning, the butchering, and the distribution. So the fact that it's all coming from the ranch and coming from us,
Yeah.
it gives us a unique opportunity to come to restaurants here and to people and direct to consumer and really give them a product that would cost you an arm and a leg in the grocery store.
Sure.
And we're intentionally keeping it at the price point that makes sense for us. Like an example, you go for a pasture raised ribeye at a grocery store now, you're probably looking at $29-30 a pound if you're lucky.
Sure.
And for us, we're holding strong at 19, right? And people think we're crazy, but again, there's a way to get there. And, ranching has really opened my eyes to a lot. And you realize that the hard work that goes into that and the benefits the land can have and the wildlife around it is what I thought was really special. Like we're all Audubon certified ranches. So to see that positive impact, and at the same time, we're raising really great beef and really good animals. It's such a cool thing that I still get excited about. And, really have this opportunity to bring that to market and to try to grow this is really special.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the things that I'm most proud to be a part of as a rancher is being a sixth generation, and everything that you said about when it comes to the sustainability of it. And our goal as ranchers is not only to raise a high quality beef product that we would proudly feed our families and that we do feed America, is also to sustain a landscape that is a working landscape, make it better than, year after year, regenerate, and be able to raise healthy cattle for hundreds of years to come.
Yeah.
That's the end goal. And so it's so great to know that that's a lot of the heart behind, your guys' thought process here. Of course, sustainability in business, but also then really looking at it from the ranching side of things too. And it's interesting that you mentioned, a lot of people, of course, in the Western industry understand the disconnect from producer, rancher, farmer through the distribution channel to the end being the chefs or the consumers, not understanding that there are a lot of steps that are added in there, and that's where a lot of the money actually goes to. My mom mentioned this the other day. Cattle prices are pretty good for us right now, but beef prices are extremely high, and the consumer is blaming that on the rancher.
Yep.
And it's not
even close.
It's not even close.
Yep.
There are so many steps along the way that, contribute to that. And that's great. That there's got to be a distribution channel, but it's become quite disproportionate at this point. So it's cool to know that that was a lot of the mentality behind what you guys are creating there.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, right? Like it's exactly that. Where it's not like when ranching is okay that you guys are printing money, right? It's like asset heavy, cash light is like kind of how the model works, right?
Yeah,
Where
for sure.
it's always reinvesting, rolling into something. And and don't get me wrong, like someone's got to get it to market, someone's got to differentiate, especially if you have a specialty beef or a specialty product. And that's where, CAB, for example, right? Like they're a giant marketing company.
Sure.
And, when it started, right, with the intent of it's bringing some really great opportunities for people that raise cattle a certain way and can become part of a co-op that, essentially guarantees they get a certain amount per pound. Sure. But again, the more that goes into marketing, the more that program grows, the more the money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from the company that's driving the bus. It's coming from either the people producing it or the person that's buying it. And right now, like you said, you're getting great numbers for different heads of cattle, but it's also disproportionately getting ramped up as it comes to the grocery stores.
Sure.
Or it goes to the restaurants.
Yeah.
I've never in my career seen beef prices like this ever.
No.
And as everybody knows, like restaurants, if you don't know, restaurants run on a really tight margin. Not much different than ranching, to the point where one bad bump in the road for most restaurants could really derail you. A financial crisis of any kind can set you back to the point where you lose everything. And like ranching, may not physically be where you live, but you put, restaurants. My first couple restaurants, man, my house was on the line. Everything was.
Sure.
And, you don't pay rent or you can't pay the bills. It's coming from somewhere. It's usually your house. And then like you said, you're trying to take care of your family. You're trying to take care of everybody. And that's the stuff where people don't, I think, know the stress behind it. So it's easy to go, oh, these restaurants are overcharging. We get that a lot too. But right now it's the worst scenario ever. You get blamed for the pricing. We get blamed for charging too much.
Yeah.
And we're the two
it's
of the
neither of our faults.
and the two people on the spectrum making the least amount of money out of it.
Yeah.
That's
No
the craziest
kidding.
part.
No kidding.
So, again, it's not necessarily to bash the industry. It's,
Sure.
I think, to force people to rethink the industry. And
Right.
I think that, again, I live and breathe it every day. And I think that, sometimes got to start with affecting change and start making people aware.
Yeah.
But also showing that you could do something that works, right? And
Yes.
a big part of what Cindy and I and Todd have really been trying to work on is, putting a model together that gives some encouragement and shows that there's a path forward to quote unquote self-distribution and really getting beef to market at a price that's effective for them, and then also creates a great value for the consumer. And that's, I know it's a lot, and then we do the whole process from start to finish. And then, on the distribution end, we work on the marketing and all that stuff. But again, keeping it contained like this has been really beneficial to the end user. So, and it's helping move product, right?
Right, for sure. There's one more element to talk about, and then before we get into the incredible organization, we're going to talk in a minute about an organization that is really pioneering an equine therapy veterans and first responders relationship. So stay tuned for that. We're almost to it. I promise you, it's worth the wait. One more question though on the business of beef and something that you mentioned when we were talking the other day. I think it's so interesting. Knowing now what you know as someone coming from the culinary industry and having learned as much as you have about the ranching and production side of things, there's also a need for cost efficiency on both ends. But you mentioned knowing the value of usable cuts when
Yep.
prepared properly,
Yep.
helping manage costs, but then also helping to kind of disperse the beef
Yeah.
that is readily available, but maybe not as highly utilized.
So that's exactly where the business has shifted to the point where the people driving the marketing, right? The companies driving the marketing are driving it for two reasons. One, cash flow wise, I could charge a lot more for a ribeye, a fillet and a New York strip and a porterhouse and a long bone ribeye than I can for a steak that doesn't have the same cachet. And that's only because of lack of awareness and education,
Yeah.
right? And people don't realize is the more ribeyes, the more fillets that we sell, the more head of cattle we produce, and the more sirloins and or sirloin top rounds and bottom rounds and all other cuts of cattle that we now have to find something to do with.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the kicker.
For sure.
And when there's incredibly great cuts done correctly that, are really good. Like I was joking with the other day, a hanger steak. Like when I came up in the industry, when I was first working in restaurants, they would almost give it away. So like they'd be like, cool, if you buy like, every case is this, he goes, we got a bunch of hanger steaks, we'll throw them in for family meal. And they would give us like hanger steaks for like cheap.
Yeah.
And we loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden they become a trend, right? And that's
Sure.
only because restaurants have driven the bus in the fact where they're like, I like to eat it, so I want you to eat it.
Yeah.
Now, even ironically, though, the hanger steak's even worse than everything else as far as availability per head. But
Yeah.
the concept is that's a cut that wasn't moved before, right? So a big thing we try to work on, and I do it in the restaurants, is like, educating people and educating restaurants that, hey, you have a braised short rib on the menu. I got a great chuck tail flap or sirloin cap that you could braised out that's going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, sometimes even eat better
Yeah.
without the gross expense of cutting out a bone-in long bone rib, short rib where, yeah, okay, it looks nice, but depending what you're doing with it, I can get it to you for half the price and it still benefits us.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a entry level into it. And the bigger thing I've been working on is, encouraging restaurants. Like, what do you have on the menu? You got a burger, you have this, great. In theory, I could sell you 2/3 of this animal to produce the things that you want. And if you do that, I can offer you $6 off a pound. So whatever the number is, and it helps really create a value and being transparent with them. Like, you help me move the rest of this, it'll benefit you. I'll cut you the price. I'll cut the price down on it. And that's how we're able to, like I said, charge $20 for a portion ribeye when a lot of, like I said, a lot of these distributors are $30, $35 a pound.
Sure.
And it's because, again, I get it. You're stuck with just that, right? Like,
Yeah.
cool. The ribeye's got to pay for the other part of the cattle. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Or it's going into ground beef, which, we try to avoid that, right? So that's been a big thing that I think my next focus has really been on, in addition to like, the Diamond Spur, like beef distribution on our site. I'm working on recipes and ways to kind of approach different cuts. So when people go online, again, I'm trying to create something where even people at home can buy something they know is good for them, that they're proud to feed their family, but they're also not breaking the bank on it, right? So you don't have to order strips and fillets. You want to order sirloin caps and ranch steaks. This is how you prep them, and this is how they come out great. And that's kind of the next step in what we're trying to do. Like you said, educate people on it. It's exciting. I think it's fun.
And we can tell that you think it's fun,
Yeah.
and it's so cool. It's been so interesting sitting here listening to everything. I'm just absorbing it all because it's clear to see that you're a multi-passionate person, and everything ties back to having such a heart of service. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you'd acknowledge that about yourself or not, but it's so evident in everything that you've talked about. You're there to educate, you're there to create opportunity, and you're there to make connection and communicate. And that leads me into, talking to you about Ponies North. This
Yep.
is an organization that you've been working on and creating such an impact with already, and I'm so excited to know about it and see where it continues to grow. I'd love to go ahead and have you tell us the heart behind Ponies North.
Yeah. So yes, I've been very fortunate to have a good restaurant career, but I'll also be really transparent. I've had some really bad crashes and pretty bad falls in this business, like anybody else has. And sometimes the higher you go, the harder you fall, right?
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of a partnership dispute situation that put me in a really bad place about 3 years ago, and I hit rock bottom. I'll be really transparent. I was just kind of like, what the hell do I do now?
Sure.
Like, I lost a lot, lost everything, honestly, and could build it back up again, and which I was going to work on, but I was not in a good headspace. And a friend of mine, this guy Jeff Pappas, who wrote a book called Ponies West. He actually did a ride for charity in the early 90s from the East Coast to the West Coast, basically from, I think it was Connecticut all the way across the country to Washington, as an awareness ride for charity.
Wow.
And his son is a military veteran. His other son is a member of SWAT. And he had this idea to create this veteran equine therapy program, utilizing Mustangs. And he brought it to my attention and mainly came to me for kind of like business structure and consulting on really how do we feed the program, literally, like, as it's like, we're on this big ride, let's strategize on food, let's strategize on that stuff. And I said, sure, great. And, I was like, all right, well, what's the program? What's the program going to be? And so they're picking up their first Mustang and they were going to kind of flush the training out and get everything going. And I came and I was like, all right, let's see what this is all about. I might as well learn about it while we're here.
Yeah.
And, I've ridden horses and, enough about horse training and behavior. And I was like, oh, cool. So this wild Mustang and kicking, biting the stall. But I was like, that's
Little different experience.
it was a big boy. Came from Oregon. He's definitely got part draft horse in him. He's huge. And he was kicking and fighting and clearly upset. And I was like, we're training that? He goes, that's the idea. I was like, all right, cool. So show me what I got to do. So started working with this horse, and a lot of it was all of a sudden the guy that was teaching me how to do this, and he's like, hey, you got to bond with that horse. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I can't do that for you. Like, get in there. You got to find a way to let him relax and find a way to connect with him. And I said, all right, cool. So, I did my normal routine where I get up and I argue with somebody at work on the phone and I do whatever. And I show up, right? I'm all fired up, not knowing it. Walk in there and this horse is snorting at me and he won't let me anywhere near him. I walk in, he had a 6 foot like circle around him. I got within, he would just pace around the stall. And I was like, okay. And,
Already going well.
oh yeah. And this went on for 2 days in a row. And I'm like, what the hell? So this guy, Tom, was training me. He goes, what are you doing in the morning? And I was like, I'm saying I do every morning. He goes, and I said, I was on the phone. He goes, he's like, you're coming to the ranch to work with this horse. You're on the phone. You're distracted. You're in a bad head place. You get out of your car. Now you're coming in and expect to work with this horse. He's giving you the exact energy you're giving him.
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's what I learned very quickly. Again, kind of put myself in that space of like nonverbal communication, right?
Sure.
And, I realized that kind of like I said, I hit rock bottom, that I had a lot of my own mental things to work out. And, the healing part of this program, really, again, we focus on veterans and first responders with PTSD, but it's a big part of it is just being able to quiet your brain. And I realized I had a lot of work to do that. And so this horse kind of gave me the motivation to find a way to disconnect and calm myself down and get in there. And all of a sudden one day I would sit in the stall with him. I'd stand in the stall. I would just stand there. And then like a third, fourth day, he took one step towards me. And I was like, oh, this is big.
This is new.
And he put his head down and I was like, oh, this is good. And he's like licking and chewing. And I was like, it means he's relaxed. I was like, I think we're doing all right. So I put my hand out and I was like, Josh was rubbing his nose and he was still immediately starts snorting, sticks his head up, but we're making progress, right?
Sure.
So, long story short, getting into that, got the halter on him, did all that stuff and learning groundwork with him and really, again, it's trying to train a raccoon to be a house cat, right? Like they're just not having it. Right? So, but I learned that a lot about myself in the whole process and the healing aspect that I had, even of being able to get in there with this Mustang, get myself in a good headspace and regulated and be able to do that. And the bigger part of it was, again, I was in a really bad place where it was hard to get out of bed. I'll be real honest with you, like career-wise, I was like, I don't really feel like doing anything today. Well, now I've committed to working with this Mustang who now has been neglected, been separated from his family. He's been neglected by whoever attempted to adopt him and did a horrendous job trying to train him, and now made it worse. So now he doesn't trust anybody.
Right.
And I'm like, if I don't show up in the morning for this horse, like, he's going to go right back to square one. I learned that the hard way. It wasn't on purpose. I had a doctor's appointment. I didn't think anything of it. And I missed a day we're training every day. Like we're groundwork. I got him saddled and like, we're making a lot of progress. And I missed a day. And I swear that day, the next day I came in, we went 10 steps backwards.
Sure.
And I learned very quickly, like it took a minute. He was visibly frustrated. He was upset, right? He was just like, what?
It's like, dude, where were you?
Yeah, what the hell, man? So
doing well.
yeah, and I was just, all of that learning and all of that understanding and really that connection I developed with this Mustang, I put into our program where, seeing veterans with this PTSD, like, again, it's hard because our first set of veterans were mostly special forces, right? And not much scares them and not much intimidates them.
Sure.
So it's really hard to get them motivated, but it's pretty funny when you get them in there with this, 1,500-pound snorting, angry, not too happy to be there animal. They get very, very wide-eyed and go, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of thing where it was, the first part of the education is observing, right? And I was like, I'm going to work the horses. I want you to watch for behavioral stuff. Like, I'm going to do things. You're going to see how they react. And that's the stuff. And that's the magic in training, right? Is to be able to read the animal. So how he responds to certain things, positive pressure, negative pressure, whatever it is. By learning those things and observing them, it makes you a better horse trainer. But at the same time, you're also directing your focus into something else that's not whatever's going on in your head.
Sure.
And it's forcing you to clear your mind, think through this stuff. And, that was kind of the best part about it. And to see these changes in these guys that were at a really bad head place. And now all of a sudden, not only are they learning how to train Mustangs, but the other opportunities too. We're creating a career path for them as well. If they want to get into horse training, we do that. So we teach them how to train Mustangs, put them up for adoption. They could sell them, they can ride them. And so it's been a twofold process, because what's better than giving somebody that's, again, got any kind of mental health issues or anything like that. Now you have a job that's also therapeutic for you. Like, that's the dream, right? Is to get paid to do something that's actually good for you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the intent behind what we're trying to do.
It's a really beautiful connection that you're creating and fostering, and it's even cooler, I think, that you have such a firsthand experience with it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where the most successful organizations stem from, is, learning and growing in your own first, and then being able to share that with a community and really reach out and make an impact. Two things I want to ask you about kind of in closing here. First and foremost, y'all are set up in partnership with another organization to do a big fundraiser here during the national finals. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, first responders now are part of our program, and we were fortunate to meet a really, really great guy. His name's Randy Sutton. He has a program called Wounded Blue, and it's for officers that are wounded in the line of duty. And for one reason or another, they've kind of been cast aside and forgotten. So their program they have a Blue Heart Award where they do every year for someone that's nominated that was exemplary in the line of duty and got hurt, medical issues, surgeries, things that weren't covered under their their disability, or they got turned down for workers' comp, whatever the situation is. Some of these guys, obviously, this guy gets shot, he's paralyzed, and the back surgery is $300,000, right? That's a very broad stroke of something that's an example of something they benefited. They had a donor come in, paid for the surgery, and now this guy's walking, and you've got really incredible stories of all these different police officers and first responders benefiting from this program. And like I said, Jeff, my partner on this, is his son is a member of SWAT, and so again, no one goes through and sees more crazy things than those guys do, and so we can bring him into the program to really disconnect from that for a bit, and be part of this is really special. At the same time, too, the big part I wanted to harp on also is the conservation piece of it.
Yeah.
I'm big into land conservation, animal conservation, and a big part of our program too is the more awareness we could bring to Mustangs. And I don't know if anyone here has ridden one, but they're incredible animals. They're sure-footed. You train them well, they're awesome. They're unbelievable. And if we can get that to the point where these get adopted a little bit easier, or if we could provide homes for these Mustangs and to continue to get them out of these pens that they're stuck in, or out of people's backyards that can't train them, that's kind of the other real benefit of the program, because these horses are incredible. I've got two now. I mean, my own horse is a Mustang. My son's riding one. He's 9. So it's, there's a trust factor there, but, seeing them and providing good homes to those animals is something really, really cool.
I think it is really cool, and it's really interesting. The Mustangs have kind of a bad rap, and they have a bad rap that's justified in quite a few places, because there's not a good working relationship with taking actual care of them. The whole
100%.
point of, a Mustang herd is it's usually neglected and out there fending for itself, which is also detrimental to the landscape that it's on. And so there's a lot of responsibility that gets dropped on their side of things. And it's neat to see that you guys are doing something to try to help with that.
And obviously it's a huge polarizing topic, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
and honestly, like, that's why I say that, like, I'm not even here preaching one way or another.
Sure.
But my thing is, there's 60,000 of them wrangled up right now.
Yeah.
The argument of whether you should do it or not is moot now. They're stuck in a pen. So our point is, they're already being neglected somewhere. So bring them to us.
Sure.
They're already caught. They can't go back. Can't put the genie back in a bottle, right? So it's like, we have them. So let's take them. Let's train them and show people that they're amazing horses, and find good homes for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And back to the Wounded Blue.
Yes.
So we're partnered up. We've been doing work with these guys. And then we have over in the Cowboy Commons, outside of Cowboy Christmas, we have a booth where we have a program called Guitars for Heroes. So we've got a bunch of amazing country artists that Vince Gill, Dustin Lynch, and a slew of others that have signed guitars for us. And then we're doing an auction over there you can bid on the guitar. And all of that goes to our two programs, whether it's Wounded Blue and Ponies North, to continue to grow and support all the initiatives with the veterans, the first responders, and all that kind of stuff.
And people are able to kind of bid on those guitars from a distance too. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. So you can go to guitars4heroes.com or .org, and you can check it out and bid on them virtually. Wounded Blue also, their website as well has a link to it, so you could bid on any of the guitars and do it from remotely, and we'll ship it to you.
And how can people learn more about Ponies North as well?
Poniesnorth.com. You come check us out on there. Follow us on social media as well, and kind of see the journey of what we're doing. Right now, we're working with a few Mustangs, new Mustangs we got in with the first responders and veterans that we have now. We're working on doing a ride from here to Salt Lake City. Last summer, we were fortunate enough to got everyone ready to rock and roll, and we got 6 of our veterans up and on horses. We rode from the border of Yuma, Arizona, up to here, Las Vegas, which is pretty exciting. Again, the whole nother level of learning where you're in a trail, taking them out, haltering them, keeping them overnight.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It was a lot of fun. And really, again, the cool part is nothing gets a horse ready to ride than a long trail ride.
Nothing gets the rider ready to ride.
They're all broke to death now, so it's good. But that was something really special. And the bonding moment around that there's a huge healing process in that.
Yeah.
Again, there's camaraderie and bonding and going on a long ride and taking care of some horses and camping out and cooking everything and doing that. So that's our next big project. So phase 2 is going to be from here to Salt Lake City-ish. So we're working on that now.
Yeah. It's a good exhausted at the end of a day like that. We always say that after a long day working cows or whatever, you get home and that's the best sleep you ever have because you put in a lot of work that day and the horses are putting in the work too. So Marc, we're going to wrap things up here. I really appreciate you spending so much time with us today, sharing your story, sharing about Ponies North and all of the endeavors and things that you have going on. This has been a highlight, not only for me, but I'm sure for everybody who's been able to watch today's episode. Sure appreciate you being here. Thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really appreciative to be here. Thank you.
Definitely. That was Marc Marrone on this episode of Roots Run Deep Vegas Edition. We'll see y'all back here tomorrow.